I think the best way to describe Dead Space is as Resident Evil 4 for the next generation. It's RE4, but with the last few remaining trappings of that franchise stripped out, and even more streamlined than RE4 was. Dead Space is survival horror for the Xbox 360 generation, though I think it still holds up extremely well today. That's because just like the Resident Evil games, just because the gameplay feels a little dated, with a wonky camera, neat ideas about menus that end up being a bit clunky, Dead Space really manages to nail the things that it's going for at its core. Number one among those things is the game's environment. Set in a massive, aging, almost decrepit feeling starship, the game's locales are most often a cross between hard sci fi and horror. The Ishimura has been operating continuously for 62 years, according to an in game audio log, and it is not in particularly great shape after all that time. The systems that hold the ship together had begun to break down long before the nasty monsters showed up, though they've certainly accelerated the process a bit. The core of Dead Space's combat system has also held up surprisingly well. Admittedly, it is quite simplistic. You have reanimated dead bodies coming at you with blades coming off every possible limb that want to close in on you and rip you to shreds. And you need to dismember them. Just like Resident Evil, you need to stop and take your time to aim and shoot. But instead of going for headshots, you're going for limbs. You're going for arms and legs. It's all very gratifying, but even more importantly, it makes you think differently to how you have in the past. It's a different kind of shooter. Dead Space also does a surprisingly good job of approaching its in-game scenario. Increasingly, I have a problem with games that tell the majority of their story over radio or audio logs, games that have adopted the Bioshock or System Shock model of storytelling. And it seems like Dead Space might fall prey to that a bit, and it certainly does for a lot of the background environmental storytelling, but you're also speaking with other people elsewhere on the ship through your suit's video chat functionality, and being able to see their faces and their whole body moving around makes all the difference in the world towards allowing me to have some sort of connection with the characters. While the environments help create a horrific world, the game itself doesn't do a particularly great job. It relies far too heavily on jump scares, which are maybe the laziest way to try and scare a player, a method of doing so that I've grown so accustomed to over the years that they basically have no effect on me. Playing Dead Space, I was rarely taken by genuine surprise. I found most of the jump scare moments more annoying than anything else. But I think this game definitely still has a ton of value. Its horror methodology might be a little dated, and I would argue that Dead Space 2 is probably a game that does a lot of the things this one does but better. It's hard to deny its significance to the genre as a whole. Honestly, this is the game that said, we can do that RE4 thing, and we can do it well. And they succeeded. Which makes it honestly a bit of a shame where this franchise eventually ended up.